Welcome to The Telescope Show. We are discovering God through geek culture, vanquishing doubt, and helping you become a hero of faith. We are the Disciple Andersons, Matthew and Katie, with you once again. Excited to be here. How are you doing, Katie?
Doing good. It's, again, another late recording, so I'm starting to feel a little tired, but it'll be fun.
It'll be a blast. It's always a blast hanging out. Thanks so much for listening. And you know what? People love news. People who listen to podcasts, I think, just are inclined to love news.
I like some news.
Yeah, tonight we've got some spacey news for you, being that we are talking about Star Trek later on in the show. SpaceX recently released a concept drawing of what a spaceship capable of faster-than-light travel might look like. The company is working on using theoretical physics to create a warp bubble that would allow faster-than-light travel.
So this theoretical physics, what does that even mean?
It's something to do with moving space and time instead of moving through it.
If it's theoretical physics, how does it become not theoretical?
They just put a spaceship with a robot and try it.
They keep trying? Okay.
I think there's a lot of computer simulations involved.
That would make sense. Okay.
But I really have no idea.
Just really haven't heard the term theoretical physics before. So
yeah, I think it means just like physics on a chalkboard or in a computer simulator.
I bet a computer, not a chalkboard. I'm going to guess.
I'm going into the etymology of the word. That's the roots.
Got it.
Chalkboard.
So warp bubble.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a cool phrase. It's just the phrase that is being tossed around.
Those two feel like they don't connect well together. When I think of warp and bubble, like bubble's like this happy boingy thing. And
I think it's some kind of bubble that would be created that would allow them to sort of like defy the current laws of physics and achieve faster than light travel, theoretically.
Achieve warp?
It's a warp drive, straight out of Star Trek.
That and automatically opening doors.
The supermarket's been like in Star Trek land for a long time.
That's true.
They're way ahead of things.
Wasn't that like first shown in shows like Star Trek before it became a thing, though? I thought I heard that someplace.
Probably.
I might be wrong on that.
Probably. You know, the imaginary stuff is oftentimes ahead of the real life stuff. You know, if they, even if they don't achieve faster than light travel, even if they achieve 1% of light speed, that would be nearly 3 million miles per second. So that is fast. And
can humans even go that fast?
Not with the top down. Well, hey, speaking of millions of miles, the James Webb Telescope is sitting in space right now 1 million miles from Earth, and I figured that if 1% of light speed is nearly 3 million miles per second. If the James Webb Telescope could travel at 1% of light speed, they could have reached their destination in 0.3 of a second.
So even if humans can't travel that fast because our bodies wouldn't handle that kind of pressure, we could send a telescope that far.
Theoretically,
with the theoretical physics.
It works on the chalkboard with the theoretical physics, indeed.
I just think the chalkboard has to get out of my head because I don't see it working on a chalkboard.
Maybe smartboard.
There we go. That sounds a little better.
Well, all right. That is going to be all of our news for today. Let's go boldly into the future and talk about some Star Trek. Well, Star Trek Picard Season 2 is right around the corner, and we're really excited for it. However, even though we're talking about Star Trek Picard tonight, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that the Book of Boba Fett season finale is tomorrow night, and we're really excited about it. So we had to say a few words before we dive into Picard.
Yeah, I think the biggest question really is, what's Grogu going to choose?
Yeah.
What if they just leave that hanging, though, and they do something totally different with the final episode? I could see them doing that.
I could see them, I could actually see them not answering that question until The Mandalorian.
Oh, when's The Mandalorian coming out?
I don't know, but I'll be sure to find out soon.
Before the next Book of Boba Fett, or are they just going to merge the two together?
I just have no idea.
I kind of think they're going to merge the two together. It seems like they're merging the two together.
Yeah, it almost seems like they needed to get some things in place for the next Mandalorian season, and they're like, this is too much setup. Let's just do this other little show that can set this all up, and then we can start the Mandalorian like where we want to.
Yeah, but what are they going to call it?
The Book of Mandalorian. The other question is, What role is Cad Bane going to play? I'm assuming he's not going to die in the finale because he's such a fan favorite character and he's been in so many of the cartoon series. If they brought him in and then killed him in the next episode, I'm pretty sure there'd just be like a huge uproar.
Well, I don't know about huge. How many people know? I didn't know about him.
Well, I think maybe, not calling you old, but the younger generation, like the cartoon generation, like
they might know more.
They like love characters like him and Ahsoka. And
it's true. I don't know about those characters at all.
Here's a question about Cad Bane. How does he eat? You notice how pointy his teeth are?
I was kind of drawn to his red eyes.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't notice too much about his teeth. He really is like a nefarious looking character.
Oh, yeah.
You got really excited when you saw him, though.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm so young.
I'm not going to go there.
I am 4.5 to 5 years older than Katie, depending on what time of the year it is. Just so you all know, I am not young. But anyway, we're going to have to wait to find out about Cad Bane and what Grogu chooses and all that until next week. So we shall see, I guess. Do you have any predictions?
I'm not very good at predicting this stuff because I always think they're going to not do my predictions. They're not going to do the obvious. It seems like it's kind of set up for Grogu to choose the Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Seems like that's kind of the direction the whole series is going in. Building this community of kind of outcasts seems to be what they're doing. And with the Mandalorian, losing his people, and I don't know, it seems like Grogu is going to choose a Mandalorian. I could also see them just not addressing that because they kind of threw us all for a loop with just bringing in the Mandalorian the past couple episodes.
Right.
So,
I was surprised they brought Grogu in. But anyway, let's save this conversation for another day because I am tempted to dive into it and give all my predictions. But, the show's going to be up in a couple hours.
Just one prediction. Just one.
One prediction from me?
Yeah.
I predict that you're right, that Grogu chooses the Mandalorian, but then in the end chooses to go back and become a Jedi, and he leaves his
all in the same episode? That's a pretty bold prediction, I'd say.
I don't know if it will be all in one episode, but I think that's where they'll go.
Could be. We shall see.
All right, moving on to Picard, Season 2. We're pretty excited about Season 2 of Picard coming out on Paramount Plus on March 3rd. Picard Season 2 is bringing back more characters from Star Trek The Next Generation, most notably Q and Guinan. Q is this really weird character, and Kate and I were reminiscing about the Next Generation episodes we had seen, but it's been a while.
Yeah, and by us reminiscing, it was mainly Matt telling me what he remembered, because I remember almost nothing about Q, except for he's this really weird character that's kind of all over the place, and I have a vague recollection of a judgment scene, where he was a judge and there was some random laughing gaggles in the back or something like that. But that's about all I remember. I have kind of vague recollection, so I really don't know much about Q.
Well, you're on track. Q belongs to a race of eternal beings called the Q Continuum. He has seemingly godlike powers, and he just likes to mess with Captain Picard.
Was there an episode where he was going to get kicked out of the Q Continuum or something?
He does these tests for the Enterprise, these crazy. He puts them in alternate realities to test them and test humanity. But then later on, they bring him back, and he's lost his powers, and then there's the whole different story arc. And there's another character named Guinan. If you recall, she was the bartender who was throughout the Next Generation series, through most of it anyway. As the series went on, they made her character into this long-lived kind of powerful character, and her and Q had this sort of history together, and she had a strange immunity to his powers, where when he would change reality, she would know it, and she would try to tell everybody, hey, Q is here, or Q is change things, and she'd have to convince them, and it was this really trippy kind of Twilight Zone-y thing. And
interesting. So Q, as a bad guy, arguably he's kind of a bad guy since he's messing with people. He changes their reality and time.
Yeah.
So that's going to be weird. I did watch one of the previews of the show, and it showed a backwards hourglass. That seems to indicate that it's going to have something to do with time. The concept of time and being outside of time is kind of an interesting concept. I recently read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and he had such a great description of it, I think, because it's really being outside of time or not subject to time is such a hard concept for my brain to grasp, at least. And he was like, picture a line on a piece of paper. And he said that time was the line, God is the paper. And that kind of like helped me understand that just in a broad sense. Of course, you can get into like ins and outs of time too, because I think space and time, they all work together and stuff. So it can get pretty darn complicated. But just from kind of a general snapshot, that helped me understand the concept a little bit, at least.
So Q messes with reality, changes people's reality. And I think at some point, everybody's kind of looked up at the stars and thought about their place in the universe and who they are and what's real, what's not real. And you had kind of an experience like that.
I did when we were talking about this, like 10 minutes before we came in our basement to try to record this, I just had this memory of me being really young. I was probably only like 8 years old and sitting on my bed in this old Victorian house that we had, but just like recognizing like I am me and trying to figure out kind of what that even meant, like my conscience or my thoughts or whatever, how that worked in the space that I was in. It wasn't like, obviously as an 8-year-old, I didn't have real like deep thoughts on it, but kind of recognizing that me being who I am was something and not really sure what that something was.
Right.
Kind of like a self-awareness type thing, which of course you gain some of that when you're like 2, you recognize you're different than your parents or whatever. But like, it was just a new level of self-awareness, I'd say. And I think we all kind of, if we let ourselves think about that throughout our life, we will have those questions that are kind of uncomfortable. And especially then, I think those questions like just automatically lead to questions about God and purpose and, and that type of stuff. I think those questions of self-awareness, reality can automatically lead to questions of purpose, which lead to questions about God, I think. Whether you call it a higher purpose or you call it meaning or whatever you call it, you're searching for something. And I think that we're really searching for God.
Well, today, if you're listening, God knew you before you were born, and he has a purpose for your life. He's the ultimate source of reality, and he's not like Q out to just mess with you and get you. He's a loving God, and he's there for you.
The search for God can kind of provide almost a little bit of stability. Once you feel like you found God, the Christian God providing that purpose, that stability, and that reality can kind of be a stabilizing factor.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think as we look at Picard Season 2, we're going to see Q destabilize reality before it becomes stable again in the end, hopefully, for our heroes. I'm really curious to see how they do that. Will it be a more gritty version of Q because the Season 1 of Picard was a lot more gritty than Next Generation? Or is he still going to be this kind of powerful but slightly ridiculous character? I'm not really sure. But I am looking forward to watching it all unfold. I encourage you all, go check out the trailer for Picard Season 2 and put your thoughts and comments, what you think is going to happen below. And we will be talking to you again really soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your dog. We love you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.